Okay, so in today's workshop and lecture, you've all had a lecture now in construction with regards to structure and a structure strategy. Okay, so basically I'm just going to take where Aubrey's explained and what you need to do. I'm going to start showing you how you're going to do this digitally. So first you're going to do a structural strategy by hand. You're going to draw out a system and you're going to have to apply some sort of structure to that system. Okay. Then you're going to build a physical model of it. Then you're going to do a 3D model of it. Okay, so we're trying to make you guys understand that we are now starting to transition into digital space. Okay, and I'm just going to start, I'm going to get the ball rolling. I'm going to get you back into Revit slowly. So the first couple of lectures and workshops are going to be very straightforward. There's no site, nothing. This is about a bit of a free open space where I want you to go and experiment and play with trying to build a structure. The good thing about this exercise is a lot of students last year would start working and then they would restart their whole project because things went horribly wrong. Like floors disappeared, columns disappeared. It's going to get quite complex, okay? So now we're working with the structural system, the bones of the building. Then you'll adapt your design to your structural strategy as the year progresses, okay? So it's pretty straightforward. So the first thing you need to do, and I just want to draw everyone's attention to, is what is expected of you in terms of assignments coming up. Sorry, my mouse has disappeared now. Okay, there we go. Let me just do one last little trick here so we can... Okay, so you can see my mouse clicks as well. That's important. Okay, just give a second or two. There we go. All right, so in ClickUp, going forward, please keep looking at the calendar and look at the due dates. Okay, so you've got a study guide quiz to do by next week. All right, it's very easy. Then you have to build a folder structure. There's a shared location where we're all going to get access to your data. Each milestone, you're going to have to put a model file in it and a whole bunch of PDFs. So we need to keep a copy of that, and that's where we're going to mark your information. So no submitting. Everything's going to be in a shared location, and that's what we're going to do now. We're going to help you set up your folders, and then I'm going to do a very quick workshop on how to approach the structural strategy. I'm helping the ArchiCAD people first because my ArchiCAD assistant is still not employed. That should happen next week. Okay. All right. And again, I'm not here next week, so this is going to be 2 lectures. Content. So next week, my assistants will be here. I won't be here. Okay. All right. So you've got a folder structure that you need to do. You've got a study guide quiz, and then you've got a structural model, a preliminary model that you'll need to submit to me. Okay, so let me just go to content. Lectures and workshops, going forward for the rest of the year, this is how I'm going to work. I've just realized that Blackboard Collaborate, the recording's not great, and it's quite a mission for you to go and download them and watch them again. It's actually a bit of a mess. Okay, so I'm going to stick to giving you a pre-recorded step-by-step guide on what to do for the next 2 or 3 weeks if possible, or maybe on a weekly basis. Okay, so this is what you should be seeing me live now. Hopefully all of you are seeing me live downstairs in studio. We'll find out soon. Okay, so the first workshop, very easy. You should all have been given access to the Teams page for Aubrey's course, so the 3rd year Teams page. But if you haven't got it, I'll add you a bit later to that team. So basically all that you need to understand is you've all been allocated a folder. So I was going to show you this in Edge. Just as a quick rule of thumb, I find that Edge is a better tool to use all your Microsoft products in, because Google's it's more geared at the Google applications. This is geared towards Microsoft. Okay. So Studio shared, it would have taken me to this location, by the way, if you sign in with your student details, but remember up.ac.za. We've given each of you a folder. Okay, so you've each got a folder. I want you to go and locate that folder today, and I need you to transfer a whole bunch of folder structures to this. You need to build your own folder structure. So this is the first part of being, call it office standards. So when you join a practice, they're going to be very strict on where you work, how you save information, where the data should go. We're going to be using a lot of data sets this year. A lot of information is going to be thrown at you, and you need to know where the data is kept and how to use the data correctly. Okay. So the first thing you need to do, if you find your name, you'll see these three dots. You need to add this as a shortcut. So add as a shortcut to your own OneDrive. So what this will do, it'll make a link on your own OneDrive where you can access this data, and it can always live on your machine going forward. So you don't have to keep navigating. So it means that you can quickly transfer data and work directly into that folder the whole time. So straightforward. I'm going to share it with mine, and I'll quickly jump into OneDrive very quickly and show you where it goes. If you go to My Files, if you give it a couple seconds, it should appear here somewhere. There it did. There we go. So you see it gives it, it will link it to your OneDrive. Now you can rename it. It's just telling you that it is linked to that location, okay? But you can rename it, and you can move it. You can move this anywhere. So put it in your folder structure in your own OneDrive where you know you're working. What's great about this, if I go to my PC now and I've made sure that I've linked OneDrive, you'll see there's that folder. So if I work in this location the whole time on my own machine at home or in the computer lab, I'm safe that my information is going to a shared location. The problem with this year is the amount of work you've got to do this model. If you lose that model at the end of the year, that's a year's work gone. So what we've decided to do, we're going to start collecting your data at intervals or sections during the year. So if, God forbid, all hell breaks loose, we'll have a copy. And this is where we will also go and audit and look at your information. So if I need to give you help or support, I can simply go into this location. Your model file's there. I can open up your model file and I can assist you on your model file. Whatever I help you with, we can save and keep in that location. Okay. But what's interesting about this folder, once you've all created your folder structures and you put the information in there, only you can access that folder, and the lecturers, of course. Okay, so this data will be secured, and it's your folder. Okay. All right, so that's the first thing you need to do. Go and find your folder and add it as a shortcut to your own OneDrive. First task. Okay. So if I go back, if you're not added to this, I'll add you to this channel as well. It's quite easy. We can help you do that. Sandeep can also help you, and Aubrey. Okay. All right, so that's the first one. The next one, on my OKU 300 Teams page, sorry, I won't even log in there either. Let me just go here. Let's go to Teams. This is where I'm going to share a lot of project data, resources. Okay, so these big data sets coming for you to build topography. So this is where we're going to get our information, okay. So OKU 300. Okay, so we always use the support, shared. I've built a folder structure that you need to transfer, and I'll show how easy this is. It's actually very easy. Student files. Sorry, that's where you put the structural model. It's project files, sorry. Okay, now each assignment has been given a strict code, and it's given you a date of when that assignment must be due. So it's just a reminder for construction of the due dates and what is in these folders. So every time in this folder, we want your model file and then all your PDFs. Okay, straightforward. So all you need to do is you need to copy this whole folder structure. So go back in here, you select all of this information, and you're going to say copy to. You can download it, but I can say copy to, and it'll take me to OneDrive, and I can put this information anywhere. Okay, so if I go to My Files, you'll see that my baked beans is there. And I can just say copy here. Done. All right. So that's the first part of this. We're going to do an audit of everyone's folder structures. 0 if you haven't got it right, 50 if you got it 50%, 100% if you do it. Okay, 3 marks today. So this is what I want you to do today. Get this done. Okay. All right, so if I go to my machine now, It's magic. It's magic. It's still transferring the stuff, but you'll see in a minute it'll all be here. Okay. 35. Okay, the internet is a bit slow. But what is great, if you're working on these lab machines, you sign to OneDrive, your data's there. There was a slight incident, well, it's a bit of a concern that we had last year. If you are working in the computer labs, make sure that all your information has synced back to OneDrive before you turn off the machine. Otherwise, it damages your file and you lose all the information. So that's happened a lot. So if you are working in the computer labs, make sure everything is synced back to the OneDrive before you shut down the machine. Otherwise, you lose everything. Okay, what is nice about OneDrive, and this is, if things go really bad, really wrong, you can go back versions. So you can go to, it might not do it in this instance because there's no versions yet. But it'll allow you to go back to versions of the same file. So if you keep saving in the same location, it'll allow you to go back to all the different saves and restore that file. So if you do break your Revit file, you can actually go back a step in OneDrive. Okay, so it's quite neat. All right, so once you started creating data, let me just go to support examples. Remember, I've given you some nice examples to look at. So for example, Hannah's information. Okay, yeah, this hasn't changed either. Okay, but it does give you a version option here, version history. There we go. So in version history, you can see whenever that file was changed, so you can go back versions. It's great. Okay. By the way, Hannah's set of drawings are very good, so I would go and look at her structural strategy. Okay, very neatly set out. Okay. In essence, this is what we're doing. You don't have a site yet, but for now, I want you to, we're just trying to put our structure together. This does take time to look good. You've got the whole year to make these look good. Okay, for now, just try. Okay, cool. Okay, so you were given a structural strategy system in construction. Okay. I've put in the slide, but please refer to the information that Aubrey will share with you and that assignment brief for the clear steps. I've just got to take a short snippet of what we need to do today. But today is just about experimenting, getting used to the software, and trying your best to try and put a structural strategy together. Okay. All right, so next week in studio, I want you all to try. You need to build a structural system and you need to start trying to put a structure together. Okay. So did Aubrey explain the brick coursing or the coursing that you need to use of the 170? Not yet. Okay. I'm going to do it for CAD because I want to show you how to I use Excel to do this very quickly, by the way, because it just helps. I've just noticed in ArchiCAD you can't use equations in some of the cells. Revit allows you to do that, but this is where I would use Excel very quickly. Okay, so very easy. Can anyone guess why we're going to use a 170 course? Just a wild guess. It's got to do with, you walk up them a lot in this building. Stairs. Okay, we're going to make working at stairs a little easier. Okay, so 170, it's 2 brick courses, 85, 85, 170. Okay, but the going, and that's a standard going and riser for a stair, 170 by 280 or 250. Okay, so we thought that the structural might work better with the circulation because your circulation has to work with the differentiation between different types. So you have a surface bed, which bears on ground. Then you've got a slab above, a concrete slab, maybe in a parking deck. That needs to be a certain thickness. Then you've got a bigger coffer slab, that's a transfer slab, where the grid can change. You learned that today, it's a big thick slab, and then above, we're gonna go timber. The best example to see this in reality is go to Loftus, go into the parking underneath and have a look. You see how the grid changes, and there are massive transfer slabs there and beams. That's where you understand what's involved. And if you get back up onto where the piazza is, if you stand and look around, you'll see every building's at a different angle. but the basement grid structure is running in a very specific way. Okay, it's good to see how this plays out. All right, so go to Loftus, take some photos. Pretty straightforward. Equals to so what I do is I just drag this down. I'm just working up my brick courses very quickly. Okay. If you have to do a whole bunch of maths, it takes forever. So use these little shortcuts. Okay. Will help. So I just make one of these sheets once. Not that. Don't do that. Okay. Okay, so now no, 20, I'm just working out roughly. All right, so I'm just going to jump into Archicad quickly. I just want to help those of you that are using Archicad to get this process started. As I said, my Archicad assistant is not available at the moment. He'll only be here next week if everything goes according to plan. Okay, so it's actually very simple. Very, very simple in Archicad, actually. Don't say it. Okay, so last year, I try to stress to everyone that your grids and your levels or stories drives the whole project. So if you don't set up your stories correctly or grids correctly in the beginning, the whole project gets very difficult going forward. Okay, the structural grid and stories actually drives the whole model in theory. Okay, residential we don't use grids that much, but in the complex buildings everything is driven by a grid. Okay. So straightforward. The first thing you need to do is go and set up your stories. Okay. Did Aubrey explain service zones? What a service zone is? He did. Yo, somebody was listening. Okay. If you just look up, you see there's a downstand beam. Sorry, those of you in your studio downstairs, just look up and look at all the service reticulation. You have to put services in a zone. They get zoned in. Okay, so that's excluded from the floor to underside of ceiling height. Typically, there will be a suspended ceiling here. That height needs to be a certain height. Then you need to provide a service zone for all your services run. And then, because there are beams here, we have to exclude that because we can't take the services through the beams. You're not allowed to punch holes into the beams. So everything has to run underneath the beams here. Okay, so for those of you downstairs, just look up, look at all the lighting. Okay, the HVAC, especially in your studio downstairs, is a massive HVAC running. Okay, so it's fresh air, so it's return air and fresh air comes in at the bottom. Okay, so just look around. We've got to start catering for all of this information that you're seeing in your space. Okay, all right, so the first thing you actually do, it's actually straightforward. You just set up your stories. Story settings, okay, very easy. Okay, so I'm going to go and look at Excel. So I can keep doing a bit of maths, but in essence, this pick, so I'm going to use 15 courses from top of, so finished floor level to underside of ceiling. You can make it 2, 3, 8, so maybe 14 courses. Okay, suspended ceiling, that's fine, for an office, for example. Okay, so I need that, and then I need another 510, or maybe 680 for services. It's typically 600 to 500, depending on the, okay. I think Aubrey specified 600 in his lecture for a service zone. Then you need the floor backup. Okay, so let's just go back to my slide quickly. So with the timber, the CLT timber, so we need to pick a system, and I'm going to use a 6-meter grid for this. Okay, so I'm going to stick with a 6-meter grid, straightforward, it's easy to work with. So we need a column size. There's the column size. Remember, this can be a rectangle. If the surface area is the same, you can use a rectangle column. But sometimes a square column and a rectangle column, we use them in different scenarios for a different reason. Okay. So these don't have to be totally rectangular. They can also be square. All right. Then we've got, so for the 6-meter, we've got a 230 CLT laminated floor system with a 150 screed on top. Okay, it's a structural screed, and then we've got cantilevers, but I'm not going to get into cantilevers for now. I just want you to build a very basic structure. Okay, so we've got, yeah, so 150, 230, Yeah, I'll stick with the 360 slab for now. So I'm just doing this very general and very broad. You will then get a lot more specific later on. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start setting up some floor-to-floor heights. Okay. What's nice about ArchiCAD, which is different to Revit, you can quickly go and set up your levels using top of floor to top of floor, and I'm going to make that for now 340 for this exercise. Okay, so it'll give me enough wriggle room. That'll include a server zone. Okay, so I'm going to copy this value. If you want to make these values, what I do is you Control C, paste as values. Okay, so I want this 3,400, straightforward. Okay, 3,400. It'll work out. Sorry, I didn't mean to close. I should have just. Yeah. By the way, I'm still getting used to ArchiCAD. It's taking a bit of time. There we go. 3,400, and I want that to be 3,400. Okay. All right. So I've set up my stories. If you need to add more stories, just go back there again. Story settings. I'm going to insert one above. So another story, and you see it starts maintaining, and I'm going to set up a basement as well. Sorry, undo. Delete story, my bad. So on ground floor, I'm going to insert below. Okay. Your ground floor, because we've got a transfer slab, I might have to add another 170 course to that. So let's just do that quickly. Maybe two more. So make that 3740. Okay. Good. Okay, now you see that it's created the stories on the side here. So my project's actually pretty much set up. For those of you that are using ArchiCAD, what I like to do is I like to make sure that I see my survey point very quickly. That helps. The next thing I like to do is switch on the grid. So most of the software, Revit the same, it comes with a grid that you can use to work with. So use that to your advantage. It's very handy. And then I'm just going to set up my grid spacing. I'm going to make it 6 meters. In one direction. I need to do it in both. Sorry. View. Okay, so this will help me a lot. If you are using Revit, ArchiCAD out the box, just use the gray lines for now. Okay, very easy. Now you can see I've got my 6 by 6 meter grid set up. Very easy. Okay, if I go to any elevation, okay, I haven't set up the columns yet, but you'll start seeing the levels correctly. Let's go back to ground floor. So let's just set up a grid system first. That's the first thing we need to do. Okay, you're going to go to grids. I'm just going to set it up to read correctly. So I want these to be dashed. I'm going to go to, that's fine for now, sections and floor plans. I want them to do the same. Okay, good. Press OK. And I'm going to simply start using my grid system. Now we use letters in one direction and numbers in the other. The reason is if the contractor phones you, there's a problem on this grid. If the building's quite in an early stage, they're going to give grid references that you need to go and look at a room. Because there's a lot of situations where a room's not quite in a location, it's hard to explain over the phone. Oh, it's, you know, when you get to the passage, you go, the engineer will say, grid A1, you go straight there, it's easy. Okay, so we're going to use letters first. And I'm just going to start, I'll take it a bit further. And you'll see that I'll start numbering this automatically. Very intuitive. By the way, you must just switch it on to snap onto the grid. Okay, there we go. Snap, 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 snap. Okay, very easy. This one I must delete because it was incorrect. Now if you start the grid system again, okay, for those ArchiCAD users, if you want to keep using the same settings, make this a favorite. It's very easy to do. I will give you, this is getting made for you. You'll get a proper template soon, okay? So, grid. Now it's asking me where it wants to start. Just make sure it's at A again, okay? Capitals. Very easy. Okay, so I'm going to click here, go there, bang. Okay, straightforward. Now if I want to start going the opposite direction, you're going to change the system. So exit the command, go back there again, and you're going to change to numbers. And it'll start at 1. Okay. Okay, so this is quite intuitive. Done. One last one. Okay. I have noticed if there is a marker in a way, it doesn't like having a marker there. Okay. All right. You can stretch out the heads later, but for now, just get your system set up. Then if we go to any elevation, you'll start seeing the grids. Okay. In settings, I just want to make sure that the levels look correct. That's something else I've noticed that is a bit strange. But keep using this grayscale. For now, you will get a proper pen set as well, by the way. And I want to change this to, yeah, done. Okay, so at this point, you can start drafting your structure if you wanted to. Okay, very easy. But what I do like, Revit is a bit more specific. You've got to use certain families to do certain things. But in ArchiCAD, you could just start with a basic column, pick a structure type that you want to use. You don't even have to do that. You just select a shape, rectangular, solid. It'll ask you when it stops, 300 by 300 now. Please pick the right column size for your project. I'll switch that off for now. That's fine. It'll create a center mark, so you can set this up a bit better. But I want this to go right up to the top floor. And I want this to start -0, for example. No, this will be a transfer slab. So let's say level 0. Okay, and that will be 0. So what's neat now, with my column selected, if you select this point over here, you see it puts your columns in. Okay. If I go to 3D view now, voila. Okay. So go and put your columns in. Very easy to do, and you see ArchiCAD and Revit are doing the same thing. It's forcing you to work with the grid because your grid actually drives the structure. Okay, so that's very intuitive how this is working. So if I drop one now, okay, the whole time in these settings, you can see home story. Very easy. Okay, now for example, if I wanted to draw a slab, I'll draw a basic slab. I don't want this to be a composite. You can set up composite slabs if you are going to use the CLT. I'll show you that later, but for now, just stick to a solid slab, okay, for now, for this exercise. So I'm going to stick to a solid slab, and I'm going to make this a 340, yeah, and let's make it a 510 for your transfer slab on ground floor. And what's interesting about Revit and ArchiCAD, the difference is you can specify where the top location of the slab will be. This is strange to understand in the beginning, but I'm just going to select this corner over here, and I'm just going to draw a bit. I'm using the grid again. Continue. Okay. So just do that again. Sorry, it didn't select what I wanted it to. Okay. So if I go to 3D view now, we should start seeing a slab in the location. Okay. I might have done 2, yes. So now I've got a slab in my project. What I do like about ArchiCAD is that you can copy, and you see it'll snap if I copy this up. So let me just grab a point here. If I quickly want to duplicate these, you'll see that it'll snap to a level every time. Control. Okay, but these 2 slabs need to be 340 maybe. Okay. So to build your structural strategy, it's quite quick. Okay. So just try and build a rough structure for the time being. So whatever you model, the physical model that you're going to build, you're going to try and replicate that in Revit or ArchiCAD. Okay. So you can see this is very easy to use. There are beam systems. Once again, you can see where they start. You've just got to understand where home is and where this will work from. It takes a bit of practice, okay, but you'll get there. All right. Okay, so that's it for ArchiCAD. For Revit, let's have a quick look. Revit was open. I don't know why it's closed. Okay, with Revit going forward, there's a new template that we set up for you for this year. So you need to go and start a project using that template, okay. The ArchiCAD students, once you get that template, you can restart your project, or you can merge that your old project into a new project with the new template. Okay, so things just look a bit better and a bit more in line with what we need to produce for this year. Okay, so in Revit, very easy. Okay, now that library that I'm going to share with you, it's always on Teams, and you can make it, so like you made that folder as a shortcut in your OneDrive, you can make My Library a shortcut. Just don't take the whole library, otherwise if you come to the computer labs, it'll try and sync all that information on your OneDrive the whole time. So be very specific of what you want to use. If you are having issues with that, let me know and I'll show you how to fix it. Okay, so we're going to start a new project. We're going to go to Browse. So we always start a project in Revit driven by a template, okay. So OKU, I've saved this already, BIM library, Revit. Okay, so don't load this whole library, just maybe put templates for now. So template, Form C, so I'm going to start a new project. Okay. Because if you don't start this correctly, the grids won't look correct, the levels won't look correct. Okay, so then you've got to do a whole lot of work just to get the project to look correct. Okay, so the template saves you a lot of time. Okay, so we've got a new project. Let's go to site. Remember, site and level 0 are actually the same. The reason why I'm using site is because guess what? I've got the internal origin of my project file visible. Okay. Now what I like to do, if I want to see a grid, I can go and use the tool. I want to see my grid in the view. So you're going to go and say show. See what it's done? This is slightly different to ArchiCAD. I'm going to go and specify 6 meters. Okay, voila. Now again, I can use the same system. The only difference with Revit is that each grid system and level system has a 3D extents, and you might have to drive these by using scope boxes. It's a bit more complicated, but they're very powerful, especially if you've got multiple grid systems. Okay. All right, so you can see I've got a guide to work with straight out the bat, so I can start with my grid system. This is slightly different because as you start drawing the grid, it will always start with a number, but if I change that to A, well, let me just change it quickly to A. So this is slightly different. So whatever system you used last, it will continue with that system. Families, I just want to switch on both grid heads for now. Just follow what I'm doing, you'll get the hang of this. Okay. So now, if I duplicate this, this is different. It will start adding. So it's a slightly different workflow. ArchiCAD will just duplicate the same one. Okay. Revit can never have duplicate grids for a very specific reason. So now I'm going to go and say right-click, create similar. Now, I'm going to draw one grid again, so just so we're along here, and I'm going to change that to a number. And then I'm just going to copy these down. So this is, the next stage is going to be the biggest difference with Revit and ArchiCAD is families. Okay, for now, straight, easy. If you go to your views now, you should start seeing a very basic grid system unfolding. Okay, now the difference with Revit and ArchiCAD is how you make levels as well. That's also quite, I'm just going to use the 3400 for now. Just remember we work in meters. Now, if you copy this level, it makes duplicates, but you'll notice something. They're not visible in your views. So this is where things are slightly different. You have to go to view and you have to make those views visible. Then they're visible. Okay. So that is the only difference, something you've got to understand. If you use the level tool in architecture and you use the level tool, then it'll make a level for it. So let me just make a basement quickly. Okay. These you'll need to start numbering correctly. And I see it's used the wrong family as well. So just be careful. You'll want this to be project levels, not datum levels. Okay. And I'm going to make that 3740. 37, so 3 points. No, it's going to be minus. So I'm going to make this one 3740. Now, grids use 3D extends, so just be careful. Okay, but make mistakes. This is what this exercise is for. Make a lot of mistakes. If things are not visible, that's where we come and help you, okay? In my videos, I'll explain in a second. All my videos cover how to fix this, okay? But straight out the bat, this is where the biggest difference comes in. If you go to structure columns, you're going to use a structural column, you'll see that you're going to have a very limited series of families available. So this is the biggest difference between Revit and ArchiCAD. Revit relies on a lot of external content families to build a model. Whereas in ArchiCAD, you can do most of the modeling within the software quite easily. Okay. So now you have to go to Insert, Load Family. So now you need a whole library of information. But I'm just going to use the United Kingdom one. So remember from last year, make sure it's United States. If you've used this United States Imperial, everything's going to be Imperial. And if you bring these families in, nothing's going to work. Well, the dimensions are going to be crazy. So United Kingdom is our closest standards. Then you're going to go to structural columns. What I like about this though, everything is categorized. So if you want timber, it's all set up. Voila, timber. I'm going to load this as a family. Now it'll ask you what size do you want to use. So I'm just going to pick the biggest one for now. But what is nice, that doesn't really matter because I can go into the family and I can start making duplicates of this. So let's make this a 300 by 300. So 300 by 300. You'll see it assigns materials to it automatically because they're pre-built into the family. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. So for example, apply. So now I've got my structural column. Okay, now you must just specify, I want this to go to level 5. So from 0 to level 5. Now this is also very unique about Revit. As soon as you click on a column, it's supposed to be level height. My apologies. I'll fix it very quickly. So as you drop these in and I move the grid, okay, the downside to Revit and its power as well is trying to create these relationships the whole time. You're not knowing this. So you might delete a grid. It deletes all the columns. Okay, so just understand that in Revit there's a bit of a complication in that sense. In ArchiCAD you can do something similar. So we just fix this quickly. So starts at 0. So base level will be level 0 and it'll go to grid. I made a mistake. So grid 4 was the highest one. Okay. But you can just simply, if you copy these grids now, sometimes they lose that association with the column. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. It depends. Okay. But to do this, you can see it's very quick. So building a structure, guys, if you are getting stuck, you draft. Okay. Now, I did make a mistake, but I just want to show you how quick it is to fix. These should all be at 6 meters, which it was in that direction. They weren't in this direction. So if you do make a mistake, put a dimension down, it'll fix it for you. Okay. Happy days. Slight difference as well, if you're going to put in a floor slab, I've already given you a 510, I've given you some information with. It's very easy, I'm going to duplicate this, I'm going to make this a 510. Keep everything the same. You can have multiple levels as well, so multiple structural levels. Just make this 510. Press OK. Press OK. And then you can just simply draw. Okay. So there you've got your big transfer slab. And again, you can copy these. I just want to show you this as well. This is the last little demo for now. You can copy this slab and apply it. So align to selected levels. You can paste it to all these other levels instantly. With Archicad, you've just got to duplicate them, okay? Nothing much has happened, but there. But these can all become other slabs as well. I'm just going to make these 255s for now. All right. So, try your best. So as you're working on your little physical model, you can jump into Revit and play with Revit and try and work in both directions if you want to. Okay. I've put a whole series of videos, so let me explain this as well. So now, if you go to, I've given you a complete set of videos on how to do this, from start to finish. Okay. To build a complex system. For Archicad users, I've also given you some content to follow. Okay. I don't think the Archicad stuff is going to be as close to the Revit stuff, but we'll have somebody here to assist you. Okay. Guys, good luck next week. I won't be seeing you, so all the best of luck. So for the rest of today, we'll walk around and assist you. I would try and start sorting this out today. Get your folder structures ready, do the quiz, etc. Okay. Thank you very much. Oh.
OneDrive folder.
Did this recording go out live correctly?
Did they not see you downstairs?
Guys, I'm going to have to do that again. Sorry.
Should I quickly check downstairs?
Let me just check. Let me check. Well, 96 people.